Welcome to the Forger podcast, where I talk with cottage food entrepreneurs about their strategies for running a food business from home. I'm David Crable, and today I am thrilled to be talking with Justina Rucinski. Now, if you have been following the cottage food industry for a while, you've likely already heard of Justina before. She is an amazing woman who has overcome an absolutely horrific situation. To put it very briefly, she was sexually assaulted in her home when a supposed client came to pay for a cookie order. It's by far the worst news story I've heard or seen since I started following this industry about 10 years ago. So that happened back in 2019. I clearly remember when I first heard the news, and I must admit at the time, I wondered if that would be the end of Justina's custom cookie business. Well, not only was it not the end, but in the past 2 years, Justina's business has actually flourished like never before. Her business, which is called SweetEms, started in Iowa back in 2014, but it is now based in San Antonio, Texas. And not only is her business thriving, but from what I can see on her social media accounts, it looks like Justina herself is once again thriving as well. So I'm really looking forward to talking to her today to better understand her story and how she has overcome unbelievable odds. And with that, welcome to the show, Justina. Nice to have you here.
Hi.
So Justina, I want to go back to the beginning of your business, back to 2014. What got you into this baking business in the first place?
So basically growing up, I had a very large family. There were well, not six siblings because I would be the seven, but my mom was a single mother to all of us. And we didn't have a lot of money. She worked as hard as she could for us, but basically she couldn't afford like bakery items, like just go to the store and buy, she would always have to make it. And I actually remember that being a really like a highlight of my childhood, because it was rough because my dad was actually abusive to her. And so my childhood was really rough, but it was one of the happier moments of my childhood was, watching her bake and baking with her. So basically I loved to bake. It became like a really therapeutic, happy thing for me. And basically it was my sister's sweet 16 where I was like, well, let me bake your cake, which I usually baked anyways. But then I was like, all right, well, how about I try to decorate this? So I decided to make this super extravagant 2-tiered cake that, looking back now, it honestly looks awful. It's not good. It's really bad, but it just made me feel so good. I felt like, wow, I love this. I want to learn more. I want to keep doing it. And basically I did cakes, and I did not do cookies at this time. I just started with cakes, and I did cakes for fans and friends and family. And then finally, I started having people ask me, what would you charge for this? What would you charge for that? So it kind of became a business without meaning to become a business. It was mostly a hobby of mine. And then people wanted to buy from me. So I was like, oh, at the time when I started it, I had my daughter, Emiliana, and she was I want to say she was one, probably almost two. Yeah, she was one. I was just, I wasn't working. I was a stay-at-home mom, and it was nice because it was just something that I could do to kind of because when you're a mom and it's just, you just get so consumed with being a mom. And I felt like I needed something to kind of be mine as well, and something that made me feel accomplished, which of course motherhood is the most accomplished. You feel amazing, but I wanted just something to kind of get away from that. And then basically I was like, all right, let's do it. So I just made a side business just to make a little extra money and to be able to do something that I loved.
So that officially kicked off, you started selling in 2014, is that right?
Yeah, it wasn't, it was shortly after I did my sister's sweet 16. It was probably a month or two after, because I did that, and then people were like, oh my goodness, you're this is awesome. Do you didn't even know you were this good? And like I said, looking back, it's not great, but yeah. So basically it was a month after I did my sister's sweet 16 that I actually started officially selling to the public.
So, what was the first year of your business like? It sounds like things were growing by word of mouth. What were you doing to grow the business?
Yeah, I mean, it was slow, but it was just word of mouth. Most of it was like, honestly, I did a lot of work for people I already knew, like from Facebook, like people that were friends with me on Facebook. And then it kind of grew, and then I did people I didn't know, which was really exciting, like getting my first client that I, didn't like, and I did to advertise. It was basically word of mouth. It was like I said, it was a very just a side business situation. So I wasn't really like stressed about trying to make money or for it to become successful. At that point in time, I just thought it would just be a side thing. I never once imagined, well, I mean, of course I'm jumping ahead, but at the time I was like, oh, I'm just going to do something I love and make a little extra money. So it wasn't I didn't take it very seriously, if that makes sense. I just did it because I love to do it and it was enjoyable to me.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And so when did it start to become more of a like serious business for you?
Yeah, so it was a side business. It was a side business for a while because I was with, at the time, the father of my children, and he was, the main person that they made money. So it basically was a side business, and I didn't make any money. Like I actually spent more money because I had to buy a bunch of tools up until I want to say like 3 years in is when I started to really like get traction and get really known and started to really grow. And where it actually started to become like, oh, maybe I can actually make this into something. Of course, the relationship with the father and my children didn't work. We were not good for each other. So when I left him, we did need a little bit of extra money. So I did get like an actual job. I worked at Target for a time being. I worked there for like 2 years while I was doing my business. But at the time, my business was growing like exponentially where I could not focus on, either I had to make a decision whether I was going to stay at Target or let it go because it was getting too much. And then when I left the father of my children, I had to make a choice. I had to be like, okay, well, I can't do both. Like, I can't do this. It's just too much. It was getting way too overwhelming for me. I had too many people wanting all these orders, and then I had to get up and work and then come home. And then I was a single mom, like with 2 kids. So it was a lot. So I actually made it full time. I made the decision to leave Target. I've only been, so full time, I think it's only been like 2 years since I've 3 years since I've been full time.
I mean, I feel like being a single mom of two young kids is a full-time job in and of itself. So
100%.
how did you add in the business or work around that?
Yeah, no, it was crazy. I'm so grateful. The biggest thing, and I truly mean this when I say it, I think the biggest reason why I was able to be successful was the support system I had with my family, like my mom. She was the biggest help to me. She would drop everything and just come help me with the kids so I could get an order out my door, or she would run to the store for me if I needed something. She was honestly, probably the reason why I was able to actually have a business with 2 kids by myself.
And at this time, were you just doing all custom orders where you weren't doing any markets or anything like that?
No, I was just, that's the funny thing. I've actually never really done markets. It was all custom. I've been known for custom, and I just kept growing and growing. And then what really happened and what really set me apart was I started to do cookies. I actually, like I said, I didn't do cookies until really, like I did cake. I focused on cake for the longest time in my career. And then it kind of switched. And it's kind of funny because I hated cookies. I attempted it one time and it was just a disaster. Like I cried. It was it was literally the worst thing ever. I like remember like cussing at them and crying. And I'm like, I'm never doing cookies again. So I did them for an order, and then I was like, oh, I can do this. And I was like, no, not doing this. So I stayed away from them. And then I revisited them one more time where I was asked to do like a very complex, like character work, Toy Story cookie set. And mind you, I was not a well-known cookier. I wasn't like, I've only had done it like twice before for very little orders, but I was like, all right, you know what? I can do this. I'll revisit it. I'll try. And I did it and they didn't turn out horrible. Actually, like looking back, they're it's always funny when you look back at your work, and when you get certain levels, you're like, oh my gosh, it's so bad. But at the time, I was proud of them. So then I kind of went full force with that. And once I started doing sugar cookies, my business, like it went from like, just being steady to making, enough money to survive to like pretty successful once I started offering sugar cookies.
So what are we talking about in terms of busyness? You're getting into maybe the 2018 range. Like, how many orders per week were you trying to juggle on top of your mom duties?
It was a lot. I would say I was juggling easily like 10, 12 orders in the week on top of being a mom, which is a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's actually a lot for someone doing it full time.
It is. Yeah. So it was crazy, but and like I said, I'm grateful for my support system, my mother, especially.
And do you remember what were you pricing things at? Maybe remember what you initially priced your cakes at way back when, and then initially priced your cookies at, and how that changed?
Yes, it changed because I learned the amount of work I had to do to put into this. Like when I first started, I had no idea. It was kind of like fly at the seat of my pants. I just love to do this. Okay, fine. Like I didn't really focus on really trying to make any kind of income. I was just basically doing it because I loved it, right? It was just like a side thing, a little bit extra money. And so no, I didn't charge very much in the beginning at all. I went from when I first did my first sugar cookies, I think I charged like $25 a dozen, which is, that's, if you knew like the amount of work you have to do with sugar cookies, like you're basically working on them a good 8 hours minimum. And I charge $25 a dozen, which is just nuts. So now I will not even turn my oven on for less than $80. So, I've absolutely like my prices have changed, but also it's because like I realized the amount of work I was doing and I was like, okay, I have to value myself in order to, really make this something. So.
Yeah, we're jumping way ahead here because I know your business is super, super successful now. I mean, obviously it was very successful before, but I saw on your website that you have $145 for a dozen cookies. That's like your highest price point.
That is my highest. Yeah, like for cookies. Yeah, that's the high. And it can get higher. It just depends on what they're wanting, I guess. But it can get higher.
Have you actually had an order where someone paid that much for a dozen cookies?
Absolutely. Yeah, I just got one actually, like a couple hours ago.
That is extraordinarily high. So they must be super complex. Well, I will say, I remember when I saw that news story come in, I checked out your Facebook page, and obviously you're a very skilled cookie artist at that point. And then I just recently, because of this podcast, checked out your Facebook page again. And you were very good before, but oh my goodness, your skill set now is just phenomenal. I mean, it went from good to or great to amazing. I mean, you definitely have improved your skills a lot over the past 2 years or so.
That is the beauty of what I do. And I love that. I love that you say that because it's true. I think anyone with a skilled craft, you're always going to grow in your craft. And I love when people say that because it's true. I've really grown and that's what I love to do. And I'm really big on that actually. It's like showing people like, look, it takes so much work, but you can get there. And, I look at my work today and I'm very proud of it, of course. But like, I know in a couple years, I'm going to look back at this work and I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, there's always going to be room for me to grow. And I love that. I love that about this. It's like one of the biggest, I think it's one of the main reasons why I do what I do, because I just know that there's so much you can do and you can just grow so much and you can keep growing. And it's like, it's never ending.
Yeah. Well, your work is really impressive. So I can understand why people are paying a ton of money for your cookies. But let's go back a little bit. We jumped ahead to the current day, but I read in that news story that leading up to that traumatic event, you were considering starting a storefront. Is that correct?
I actually had the building. I had a nice little setup that we were going to do, and things were slowly getting there. And it was happening. I was painting so basically it was going to be below me. And so I lived in like an apartment area, but the lady who owned the building was like, let's do this. Let's make this into an actual like place where people can come in and grab their cookies, and we can have like a separate area kind of situation. And yeah, it was all planned and everything. So yeah, that was definitely in the works back then.
Well, obviously, you had an extremely successful business at that time. Obviously, you still do. And we're kind of leading up into this traumatic event in your life. And I remember back when Courtney, who wrote the big news article, she actually called me first to talk about the history of the cottage food industry, whether anything like this has happened before. I wasn't aware of anything like it happening, but I feel like she did a really fantastic job of laying out the story. But of course, it's her words. I'm talking to you today. I want this to be your story. I'm happy just directing people to that news story to let people read up on what happened if they want to familiarize themselves. Is there anything that you would like to add or talk about in the context of what happened?
Not really. The thing about with what happened, I don't mind, talking about it, but I absolutely don't want to go in detail with anything, because it's one of those things, it's a part of my life now, and I can't give it too much power, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. I am just going to include the link to that news story in the show notes, and people can go there if they want to check it out and read up on that. But let's skip ahead to after that happened. Obviously, there was a recovery period in there, but I remember starting to see your name keep popping up in terms of you becoming a very popular baker. What was the response of the community like, and how have they supported you since that happened?
Yeah, I mean, I can say this. Like, I don't like to talk about my trauma in like detail, and Courtney did write a very, and it is very detail oriented, and it is accurate that when she came to me, that literally was, I want to say, a couple days, or yeah, it was like a week after it happened to me. So it's not something that I want to talk about, but I can say this. I can say that I just remember I was very hurt, because I've grown this business from the ground up. And when I mean the ground up, literally from the ground up, like I didn't have, I'm 100%, a self-starting business. I didn't get any money to start it. It was all just me, and it was something I loved. And it was like my other child, like I have my two beautiful kids, but my business was like my third baby that I had been growing. And I just remember like laying on the bed completely I'm not even wanting to even think about my work. And I actually remember I had orders, and I was ready to give it all up. I couldn't imagine at that time being able to keep doing something that hurt me the worst I've ever been in my entire, like, I couldn't imagine keep doing that. I couldn't imagine that I could get to a place where I could do it and feel happy and feel that joy again, like what it gave me, because my business was used in the worst possible way to hurt me. And I never thought that I could get to a place where I would be able to really, love it as much as I did before. I felt like that piece of me was taken away from me. And honestly, I didn't think I thought I was gonna quit. And I genuinely was like, I can't do this anymore. And I told my family, I said, I can't, like, I'm destroyed. I am beyond hurt. And I was just trying to come to terms with that even being real. I didn't believe it was real. I thought I was in like this messed up nightmare. None of it felt real to me. I felt like I was in this like just messed up, it was crazy. Like it was just one of the, honestly, like looking back now where I'm at in my mental state, like I couldn't believe I was in a place where I was then. Like, I was in complete and utter shock that, that happened to me. Cause like, and I've said this before to people, but like, you see things like that. You see documentaries, you see movies that are like awful. You see these things that you're like, but it's fake, right? Like it scares you. It, you're like, maybe you can't sleep for a couple of days kind of situation. But then when you have something very real that is probably something that could be in a movie happen to you like that, or in a documentary like that, your whole view changes. It's crazy. Like I just I never thought, it's just, you can't fathom that. You can't even think to, so I was just in a really dark place. It was the worst time of my life. But I do remember there was so much support. And that's where I was getting at. The whole community, like, just, even though I was in this super dark place, not even my local community, right? Not even my local community, but my actual like baking, like cookiers all across the world. And I mean the world. They all like, like held hands, or like basically like, and locked forces and spread their love across. And I just remember that. I remember, the support that was given to me, and that I saw it, even though I couldn't fully like understand what was happening at that time. Once I got to a better place, I fully saw it, and it definitely helped me see, a light in such a dark place I was at. And I just remember like thinking like, I can't give this up. Like if I give this up, not only do I destroy like what I've worked so hard at building for myself, but I also let that person, that monster who did that, win. I let him destroy such a vital part of me, and I can't allow that. So I ultimately decided that I wasn't going to do that. And I wasn't going to let him destroy my happiness and destroy the joy that this business gives me every single day. Like I didn't let that happen.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that very honest recollection there. I know it's not easy, but I mean, you're clearly in a better place now. And if you could, with the past 2 years of experience of going through this, if you could go back and tell someone like yourself who's just been through that, like what would you tell yourself back then when you were in a dark place and you couldn't necessarily see the light?
Like what would to encourage myself?
Well, I just got the sense that you were hopeless and you didn't have any kind of positive outlook. And I just didn't know if you've learned something over the past 2 years that you would want to share with someone who is in your position.
No. And I know that's a weird response, but let me explain to you why I say that. When you're in a place like that, I had plenty of people reach out to me and tell me, you're loved, you're beautiful, this isn't, and it doesn't matter when you're surrounded in a dark place like that, like that's all you see is dark, right? You don't see any kind of glimmer of hope. You don't see it. You're not going to see it. You're just in this, like essentially like a black hole. And that's what you see. So when you're surrounded by something, that's where you're at. I think the most important thing, like I said, if I could go back, would just be, like I said, the support. Just in anyone who's going through trauma, you can say all you want to them, but just continue to love them and be there for them. And anything they do, just be there, because you can't fathom to understand where they're at, because you don't understand. So the most important thing I would say is don't try to understand where they're at, but just be there for them unconditionally. And it will show eventually, but it just has to be on their terms. Yeah, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. So when did you start to feel some glimmer of hope?
It's interesting because I didn't really feel any glimmer of hope for a while, because it was really hard for me, because I had I had that happen to me. And then quickly after that horrific thing happened to me, I then had to go, I then had to go to trial for it. I had to put him in jail. Right. So on top, on top of that, I had to stand on this podium and hear just be completely dehumanized and, tell everyone what happened to me, but then have a lawyer be like, well, you didn't say this or you didn't say that. And when you have something so personal and so awful, happen to you, like happened to me, I didn't really I don't think I ever looked at it like a glimmer of hope. And what I looked at it is like, I was resilient. And maybe hope wasn't there, but I was going to keep going.
Yeah, very well said. So about when did you start picking up the baking business again?
I was away from it for a while, and people were very kind and super considerate of even the orders that I had to cancel. Everyone, I mean, everyone, none of them asked for their money back. Like I said, the support I had was amazing. The understanding, the kindness, like that was my biggest thing. I was terrified that people were going to destroy me because like that, my reputation is as a business, like your reputation is very important, right? And that was one of the scariest things for me. At the time, I was like, people are gonna like, this is gonna be bad. Like I have to cancel thousands of dollars worth of orders and I don't have thousands of dollars to give them back like that. Like it was awful. It was completely awful, but everyone was super understanding. And also people were very kind and letting me take my time to really heal because not like heal physically because, he hurt me very badly, but also heal mentally. Like I had to like kind of just step away and kind of find my footing again. It was almost like I had to like basically like a new me, right? Because yeah, I'm me, but something so life-changing like that, you kind of just have to step away. You have to find who you are again. So I did. I remember it wasn't, the crazy thing is it wasn't like a year. I didn't take like a year. It was a couple months. I took a couple months off and then I was like, you know what? I want to work. And that's kind of like my personality, I think. I think that's the biggest thing about me is I'm a very independent person and I grew independence because I was a single mom for, I'll say like 4 years. I learned how to become very independent and I didn't want to lose that part of me. I didn't want to lose my independency and I didn't want to just not do anything or not feel like I'm bringing anything to the world. So I was like, I have to work. And so, yeah, like it was, I want to say like it was a couple months after that happened. I think that actually we're coming up on the 2-year. I don't like to say anniversary because it's obviously not an anniversary, but almost 2 years ago that happened to me. It was actually in August. I want to say I started work back up in like the end of September, beginning of November, or it was like the beginning of October is when I started, like middle beginning is when I got another order. And it was actually for Toy Story, which I felt like was kind of a sign for me because the Toy Story cookies were kind of the thing that got me started with cookies, right? So it felt good. So that's when I kind of started back up again.
So what was that next few months like? I mean, this is just a few months before the pandemic hit. What was that period like as you started to get back into the baking world?
It was slow going. I had a ton of support, a ton of people wanting to support me and order from me. And, I was just grateful for the support. Truly, I had so many people, thousands and thousands of people truly support me through such a horrific time in my life. And now that I'm in a good place, I really recognize that. At the time, I couldn't recognize it because I was just in such a dark place. I didn't, but now like I know, and I can fully say this, that support truly did bring me back to who I am today and my business.
Yeah. I mean, you've also been very open about it, just talking on social media, sharing things. I think a lot of people really respect you for how open you've been.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing is there's such a stigma behind what happened to me. And I don't think there should be. I don't think a woman should be afraid to speak about something like that. Like, I feel the more women speak up, like maybe the less it'll happen. Because it was so disheartening for me, because when that happened to me, I had thousands of women reach out to me and tell me, this happened to me. This happened to me. I've never told anyone, but the amount of people just personally that I've heard, it's just awful. It's beyond awful. And I feel like if we had more of a voice and we stood up, I feel like it would help. And I truly do believe that. I don't believe there should be a stigma behind it, because I didn't ask for any of that. That was put upon me. That's not something that I asked for. That was something that happened to me, and I didn't ask for any of it. So why do I have to be quiet about something, or why do I have to feel shame over something that, I didn't ask for?
As I said, I do feel like people look up to you as a great example of how to deal with a situation like this. So as you started regrowing your business, how long did it take for it to get back to being as busy as, I mean, I feel like it's even way busier now than it ever was
Yeah.
before. So was it just like an exponential growth, bringing your business back?
Yeah. Like I said, I had so much support. So actually it was pretty quick. And actually what happened was people who didn't know me knew me, because it was a big story. It happened, and it grew. But the thing that happened was, it wasn't because but they continued to say, because they loved my work. They saw that I was talented. Do you see what I'm saying? So it actually grew my business. I didn't expect that. I didn't want that. That's not something, obviously, that I would ever want, right? But that did happen because people, the support, and then people who actually didn't know me was like, they had then heard of me, and then it kind of just spread like wildfire, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense. I have noticed, I feel like you've won some awards, or you've been even in the running for some of the big online cookie competitions.
Yeah, no. So I won the best of the best in Southeast Iowa a couple of years back. I want to say a year ago. It was a year or two ago. And then I was also a runner up in like an online thing. Yeah, I haven't done that many, and I also, hopefully, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I did get contacted from Food Network as well. So that's definitely a goal of mine, to be on like Food Network for baking.
I was going to ask about that. I feel like it's only a matter of time before you're going to be on one of those TV shows.
It's a goal of mine. I would absolutely love to do it. I think it would just even, I mean, if I win, I don't win, fine. But I just think the experience would be amazing alone.
Oh, yeah. And, you have the skill set to do it for sure. You're easily talented enough. And then you're also, very communicative and social. I mean, your Facebook page and Instagram feed are just, I feel like they just blew up in terms of the number of followers that you have. And you post on social, like, I feel like every day. I mean, you're super active on social media. Has that always been the case throughout your business?
Yeah, I'm a very, I think that's my personality though, right? And I always say this, when you become a business owner, when you start a business, people don't, they want your products, but they also buy into who you are. And I do feel like, because I've always been such a social person, I've always been very friendly. I've always been very easygoing. I think people have really loved that also too about my businesses, because I'm a person, and I've made that very clear. I'm not just a robot. I'm a person, and I've kind of been kind of a blogger / business owner, if that makes sense. People feel like they know me, and they love that. I get it all the time. Oh, I just love this and this and this. And I think that absolutely, it's just it's my personality. That's just how I am. I'm just a social person, and I'm open. I'm a very open individual. I don't really keep anything hidden. It's all in the front.
So now that your business has grown substantially, are you still working out of the home, or are you going out of a commercial kitchen now?
Currently, well, I just moved. And so currently I'm just trying to get my footing here, to be honest. Like I was known very well in Iowa and I grew like crazy and I had orders upon orders and I had to turn people down. And when I decided to move from Iowa to Texas, San Antonio, I'm slowly kind of building myself back up. So I haven't even looked into doing commercial stuff right now. Right now, I'm just trying to get my name out there as much as possible and just kind of, it's like I kind of had to start from scratch a little, but it's actually going well. People seem to really like my stuff here. So hopefully we can, I kind of pedaled back a little because I went from everyone knowing me in Iowa and all my work to Texas, where I did have a few people know me, which was awesome to see, but I definitely have to get my name out there.
Yeah, I did see that you got into a relationship, and I think you said it in a message or something where you've moved not away from something bad, but towards something good. So that was a really nice way of putting
that. Yeah. Cause like a big reason why I moved, well, to start my life with my boyfriend and we're very happy together, but also you can't heal where you were broken. And I think it's going to help me heal more to be away from where I was hurt so bad. And it has. I felt so good since I've been here. And it's been fantastic. And I'm so much happier. I am so much more present. And honestly, I feel like my work is also becoming more elevated because I can see it. Like for me, like I can see my happiness being shown through, like with my work and with everything. So yeah.
And you've not only been selling your cookies, but I noticed you've also been doing some classes as well.
Yeah, I actually offered my first class in San Antonio, and I definitely, it's like halfway full, so that's exciting. I can't wait to do that. So yeah, my hope is to be able to offer more classes in the future, and I would really love to like go different states, and like I want to grow that much. I want to grow where I can like teach all over and experience that. So that's definitely something I'd love to do.
And I noticed you have obviously the custom orders, the custom cookies, custom cakes, but then I saw like mystery boxes, cookie kits. Can you describe those a little bit?
They're fun. So people really love my work. I think the biggest thing is people just love what I do. And I actually design like 85% of my work, right? So when people message me or when they go to order, they'll just say like, I have this theme. I have, so for instance, I just got an order they want like a Texas/Friends theme. And that's it. She's like, I love your work. I want you. And I design it. They tell me the stuff, any kind of specific details they want, but I design most of my work. So the mystery box is fun because it's like they get my work, but they don't know what they're going to get. And people love it. It's actually very successful.
I imagine that no one has been disappointed.
No, not yet. Like fingers crossed.
And what are the cookie kits?
Cookie kits are fun. It's very budget friendly. It's where you can so they're my cookies. And so the thing about my cookies is they're artistic and I'm so proud of them, but they also taste really good. I've had people tell me that they're the best cookies they've ever had. Like, these are amazing. Like, yeah, your stuff is amazing, but like those cookies are so addicting. They're like crack. So you're able to have my cookies and then you can decorate them yourself. So I give you all the tools. I give you like icing and you get like sprinkles for the theme. And then they get to like have memories or enjoy memories with their families or friends and, be their own little SweetEms, they get to decorate and they're my cookies, but they get to decorate them.
And then also I noticed that every order comes with a logo cookie. Why do you do that?
Yes. Yeah. So I've gone through like 3 different logos for my business when I started. I started off with like this generic, really silly one that I found like a clip art of. And then I actually hired somebody to do this other logo that just wasn't quite me. It didn't fit. I didn't like it. So I got rid of it. Then I actually remember I was with my cousin we were in Chicago and she's like, Justina, I don't understand why you don't do something like penguin related. She's like, you love penguins. You've always loved them. They're a huge part of who you are. Like, why don't you just do that? Like, And she was actually talking about like getting a tattoo because she was trying to convince me to get a tattoo. She's like, get a tattoo with like a decorator, like a little, what is it, a decorating bag. You know how cute that would be on you? And it's just so funny because then it was like a light bulb in my head. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Why don't I like make this my actual logo? Like this makes so much sense. Like I'm obsessed with penguins. This is like anyone who knows me knows this about me. And like, why don't I incorporate that into this business and really make this brand me? This is really going to make me. So I hired somebody to do my logo and I'm very proud of it. It's fantastic. So then I was like trying to think of fun ways to incorporate my logo. And I would always put a logo because you like when you do work, like when anyone, like any cookier and cake artist, they're always going to put like their logo on the cookie or the cake. First off, so if someone doesn't try to like say it's their work, and also like a watermark. And I was trying to think of something that could be a little bit more unique and different. And I kind of stumbled upon that where I was like, what if I like cookied my logo? And it became a big thing. And yes, now I offer every single order, every custom order, not every order. I shouldn't say that because not every order gets it. It has to be a custom order, but every custom order, they get an extra cookie. So not only do they get, they get a dozen cookies, but they also get 13. So they get 13 cookies. And one of them is my logo cookie, and I have fun with it. It's actually probably my favorite cookie to design because I get to do whatever, right? Like I get to find fun, unique ways to make it match to the theme that I'm doing. And people love it. They enjoy it.
Yeah, I did see some posts where you said that you do your best work when you have the reins on the design front.
I really do. Yeah. And I think that's like anyone really, like any cookier, like anytime you get to do your own thing, like you just, you do, at least for me, I do much better. Like I don't mind getting work where they're like, I want it to look like this, of course you're you're paying for it. You get what you want, of course. But yes, I absolutely do my best work when I design my own sets.
Do you ever turn away an order because the client is super specific on what they want?
There's been a couple of times. I won't lie. The beauty of what I do is I can be selective in what I want for my portfolio, what I want to build, what I want to, and there have been a couple different things where it's like, you should just go to someone else because I feel like this is something that I don't particularly, yeah. So there's been a couple times, but most of the time, like I said, 85% of the time, people are more than happy to let me design their stuff. And I don't like force it upon them. They want me to design it. Will specifically say, I love your work. I want you to do this. Like I do what you want, go crazy. So that is like the consent. Like that's what I always get.
As you think back on, the many years you've been running this business, are there any stories that stick out to you that are memorable in terms like, positive stories of custom orders or deliveries or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many stories. I actually heard a story where this woman, it's really touched me, was like a big fan of mine, I guess. And apparently she had passed away. And the girl reached out to me and told me like, I really want to order from you, because it's kind of a member of my mom because she was a huge fan of yours. She'd always show me your stuff. She would always freak out about what you do. And she just loved you. So, can I order this? And it really touched me because like, I love what I do. I do it because of the art and because of being able to push myself in ways I've never been pushed with what I do and my artistic freedom. But like to see that I really impacted people in that way, like, gosh, like, how do you respond to that? Like, I look at me and I'm just like, I'm just Justina. Like, I don't see myself how other people see me. So to hear someone had looked up to me so much in that way, it's beyond amazing. Like, and I've gotten that a couple different times and it makes me feel so good. Cause like, I don't look at myself like that, So when I hear people look up to me like in such a amazing way like that, it makes me feel really good.
I feel like that's just a common theme in your story is that you've impacted so many people without knowing about it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. I've never tried to either. I just create because I love to do it.
Well, it seems like it's because you're not afraid to put yourself out there. You're not afraid to let people see who you really are. And then that's where the opportunity comes in to really touch people in an impactful way.
It's weird. I can't put myself on a pedestal because I feel weird doing that. I really don't. Like I love what I do. I enjoy it. I love to create, but I'm just me. I'm just, I think that's like my biggest thing. I'm just a girl who loves penguins and decorating. And, I just think it's great. It's great that people look up to me like that. Cause, and that's the crazy thing. I've had jobs. I worked at Target. I worked at Subway. I've worked all these different places. And, I never felt any sense of like accomplishment with those places. And there are a lot of times I would get fired for silly things and then I'd feel low on myself. And, this business has really given me that sense of accomplishment. I feel so good. Like I feel like amazing because I truly feel like I'm in a place where I'm doing well. Like I'm actually like, I feel valued. When you feel valued, you can't really put a price tag on that, right? Like it's a great feeling.
Well, I know that you don't want to put yourself on a pedestal, but one thing that's definitely true.
I really don't.
One thing that's definitely true is that you and your story has caused quite a bit of change in the cottage food community. I know it's important for you to get the labeling laws changed so that, people are not required to put a home address on a label. And that change has been happening a lot. What have you seen in regards to what's happened in the last couple of years?
Gosh, there's a ton of states that now do not have to put their address on the labels. And I've found it's all because of my story. And that to me, that's beautiful. I can say this now. Back then I wouldn't be able to say this because I was in so much pain. But when I'm able to help people like that, when I'm able to make my community who I love, I've grown close to these women. They become my friends. They become my mentors. Like, yeah, people look up to me, but there are so many cookie artists out there that I am beyond amazed by, that I look up to. And so when I see that, when I see like, that I've made that impact to make these, keep these women safe and, men too. There are men that also do what we do, but keep these people that I truly love. And I love that community safe like that. To me, I hate what happened to me, but what beauty, like that's so beautiful that came out of that. At least there was something good that actually came out of that. And it makes me happy. Like I was able to take such a horrible thing and really make change, and not only change in, a lot of ways, but also keep a community that I truly care about and love and value safe like that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that change has been happening in a big way. I've noticed it, especially in the last year. That's like the only amendment sometimes is just changing the labeling requirements. And I feel like it's just the start of almost all the states doing that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I truly hope it just becomes across the US that it's not required, because it shouldn't be required. There's no one should have access to anyone's home that easily, because unfortunately there are horrible people in this world and no one should have access. We shouldn't be giving them any kind of easy way to hurt, anyone like that. So that's a great thing. It's very great to hear that.
Well, and I can just, speak on behalf of so many people. I just, having been in this industry for 10 years, I have heard consistently over and over again, women especially, who are, it's just like one of the biggest questions in the industry. Like, do I really have to put my home address on the label? Like, why do I have to put the home address on the label? So I fielded those questions for 10 years. And so, yeah, it's only been just in the last couple of years that we've actually had some major changes happen. And so, yeah, and I think that wouldn't have happened if you had just been silent about what happened to you. And I know, obviously, many people are silent, and that's understandable. But I think that's why a lot of people look up to you, is just because you chose not to be silent about that. And obviously, there's been some silver lining to a very dark cloud.
I'm very grateful that there was beauty that came out of came out of that. It's great seeing it now.
So as you look forward in your business, I know you're kind of getting yourself reestablished in San Antonio, but where do you see this business going? You've touched on it a little bit in the episode so far, but where do you see this business going into the future? Where would you like it to go?
I just want to continue to do what I love to do, which is, create. But I would truly, like I said, I would truly love to teach a little bit more, because there's so many people that I didn't realize this, but there's so many people that want to learn what I do. And of course, I can't teach them exactly what I do, but I would just love to teach them, what I can. And I think that'd be fantastic. I'd love to get more into teaching. I also eventually, and I'm actually looking into it, I want to be able to offer like a brand where people know me across the US. I really want to grow this into something truly remarkable, where I'm really known and really known for the hard work I've put in all these years. So I hope that can happen. But yeah, that's right now it's I'm in a phase of restarting over, but I'm hoping things will go well.
So for someone who's kind of newer and starting out in this industry, what sort of things do you think they should know when they're jumping in?
I always say this, and I've been a huge advocate on it. Anything you do it with passion. If you do it with passion, you do this with true passion, you will succeed. Because passion is what is going to drive you when it gets hard. Passion is going to drive you when things aren't going well. It's going to push you to do more, to keep going, to try new things. That is the most important, in my opinion. The most important thing is to do anything with passion. And then of course, never, and I'm also big on this too. And like I said, and this is why I don't like to put myself on a pedestal. I refuse to do that, because life is a learning experience. There's always going to be someone out there that's better than me. There's always going to be someone out there that is more talented or can do things better. And all I can do is continue, focus on you, focus on what you love to do, and grow, and don't worry about anyone else, and just grow you, because I remember it gets discouraging when I first started. I remember seeing all this and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get there. And now it's crazy to see all these cookiers message me, because I get messaged every day by cookiers like, I'm just starting out and I look up to you and I love what you do. And it's just very humbling, because I was in their shoes when I started out. 100%, like I would look up to these, like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? How do you do that? Like, there's always going to be things that I can push myself. And there's always going to be someone better than me. And that's okay, because they're going to make me better, because I'm going to be inspired by them.
Very well said. Thanks so much for sharing that. I think that's a really nice way of capping off this conversation. So Justina, if people want to reach out to you, contact you, where can they find you and get in touch?
I'm very active, like you said, on social media. So I'm active on Instagram, but not as much as Facebook. So Facebook is going to be the biggest one to get a hold of me on. And also I have a website for my business too. And so you can email me. So yeah, so I have my email, my website, and then Facebook.
Well, I'll put links to all those things down in the show notes. And once again, thanks so much for coming on, being very open and transparent and sharing with us. I know it wasn't always easy to share, but I certainly appreciated everything that you shared, and I'm certain that anyone else is going to love this episode. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's fun.
That wraps up another episode of the Forager Podcast. Wow, I am so grateful to Justina for coming on the show and being so open about sharing her story. I know that she has earned the love and respect of so many people in our industry, and as she settles into her new home in Texas, I am quite confident that her business is once again going to take off in a big way. For more information about this episode, go to forager.com/podcast/40. And if you enjoyed this episode, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. A review is the best way to support the show and will help others find it as well. And finally, if you're thinking about selling your own homemade food, check out my free mini course where I walk you through the steps you need to take to get a cottage food business off the ground. To get the course, go to cottagefoodcourse.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.